welcome back. It's great to have you back. Not
Thank
too
you.
surprisingly, I suppose, not a lot of reaction on the market from today's decision from the RBA, which was really largely priced in, keeping the cash rate on hold.
Liz, I think it was expected that we would see the cash rate remain on hold. But one area of the market which did move quite a bit was the financial space. If we have a look at the financial space, it was quite an impressive performance. Before the rates decision, that sector was down by 0.1%. And after the rates decision, we saw a gain, and at the close we saw a rise of 0.8% for that sector. So the big four banks all doing quite well out of the rates decision. And if we have a look at the banks, they're in a bit of a sweet spot at the moment where we are seeing easing funding pressures, which is supporting the net interest margin. We're also seeing efficiency gains from the banks, as well as still a relatively high market despite the sell down that we have seen in the Australian market over the last couple of weeks. So the banks with an impressive performance on the Australian market today, and that really helped to propel the ASX 200 back up again to finish up by 0.4%. One area that didn't do so well were the copper producers. They were under a lot of pressure, and that's because we saw New York copper prices down by 0.8% overnight, and that was down to a 9-month low. We did see a bit of profit taking after the weaker than expected ISM manufacturing numbers out of the US, but if we have a look at these copper producers, there were some pretty big falls today. Sandfire was down by 5.3%, Panos was down by 4.4%, and this isn't a trend that we've just seen today. This is a trend that we've seen in all of 2013 so far. In fact, if we have a look at the copper price over the past year, this is what it looks like. The biggest copper producer on our market, Oz Minerals, are down the bottom there. And if I just put the two over the top, you can see that really our copper producers follow that copper price. And we've seen a little bit of a disconnect recently where we are seeing those copper producers falling more than we have seen in the copper price. In fact, copper prices are down by about 8% for the year to date so far. And we're seeing those copper miners, their leverage to that copper price down a lot more. Oz Minerals is down by 23%. We're seeing Sandfire down by 34% in the year to date so far. And we're seeing Panos down by 29%. So the bank's doing well today on the market, but unfortunately not such a great day for some of those material stocks.
Obviously, it was one to watch today. Shares still in a trading halt and likely to remain in that halt until Thursday. But a lot of speculation out there about the fact its two private equity suitors may be lowering their takeover offers for the company. Have you heard any sort of more clarification of those rumours?
We are just hearing speculation at this point in time, but it's an important time for Billabong shareholders, and that's because if these private equity bids fall through, then we know that Billabong's balance sheet is quite weak, and what we'll probably see is Billabong having to raise capital. Now that's raising capital at a time when its share price is very weak. The shares reached an all-time low of 63 cents this year. So we're watching Billabong very carefully to see whether those private equity bids actually do come through. Now the offer on the table was at $1.10. It looks like that's going to be substantially lowered, but that would be so the share price reaction of Billabong will be dependent on the price if another offer does come through. Of course, if we have a look at the environment in this software space, it has been a very difficult one. Recently, we saw Rip Curl trying to sell its business for around about $400 million. That sale's now being pulled because of market conditions. So it is really quite a difficult space. And we know even with Billabong's experience, we've already seen two private equity bidders pulling out of potential takeovers, TPG and Bain Capital. So we're now watching these two bids very closely. We know that Thursday was the due date for final bids. It looks like negotiations are still continuing, and the market and shareholders really just waiting to see whether another bid, a lowered bid, does come to the table. And if we do see no bids, then of course that possibility of a capital raising when the stock is pretty much near its all-time lows.